I stood still, my breath caught in my throat. Yet another creak echoed through the silence, followed by the gentle sound of footsteps approaching. The door to my bedroom, barely open, creaked further ajar. My heart pounded, a relentless drumbeat against my ribs. I rose gradually, my eyes fluttering open to the enveloping shadows. And welcome to Man Story, the place to store emotional love stories. Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. Wishing you enjoyable, relaxing moments. Thank you. I thought I was just babysitting, but an unexpected moment awakened emotions I thought had been buried. What happens when a young man makes you feel like you're no longer a tired mother, but a vibrant woman? For a time that stretched beyond my willingness to acknowledge, I had been enveloped in a shroud of invisibility. In my early 40s, life had gradually shaped me into a caretaker, a provider, a nurturer, everything except a person who was truly seen. When my neighbor inquired if I could watch her youngest on a Friday night, I agreed without a moment's hesitation. It was meant to be simple, just a handful of hours filled with cartoons, a bit of story time, and perhaps the gentle act of tucking the little one into bed before retreating back into my own serene, uneventful routine. Little did I know that night would awaken a feeling within me that I believed had vanished for good. The evening unfolded precisely as anticipated. A handful of rounds of hide and seek, a delightful chaos of toy dinosaurs strewn across the living room floor, and gentle giggles that filled my heart with warmth. As the clock struck 9, I gently ushered the drowsy boy into his bed, weaving the familiar words of his beloved bedtime story until his breaths grew slow and steady, guiding him into a realm of serene dreams. I crept quietly from the room, taking care not to disturb him, and sank onto the couch, weary yet satisfied. As I mindlessly scrolled through my phone, the sound of the front door creaking open caught my attention. My heart leapt, a mere reaction to the sudden surprise. I reassured myself. I rose gracefully, my fingers gliding over the fabric of my dress as I turned to discover the identity of my visitor. And there he stood, Henry, the eldest son of my neighbor. It had been more than a year since our paths last crossed. College had transformed him. He had grown into himself, developed a certain poise, and there was a newfound assurance in his stride that had previously eluded him. His deep brown eyes met mine, and in that fleeting moment, I lost the ability to draw breath. His smile transformed the atmosphere, as if the very air in the room had changed. "Hey," he said, his voice a gentle murmur, rich with warmth. "I appreciate your assistance this evening." I muttered a vague assurance, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear, suddenly conscious of the casualness of my worn jeans and unassuming top. Yet Henry appeared oblivious, or perhaps he perceived something that sent warmth rushing to my cheeks. He let his bag fall to the floor near the door and peeled off his jacket. Unveiling a snug t-shirt that hugged his broad shoulders, he glided through the room with an effortless grace, as if he were still a part of it, and that peculiar blend of familiarity and tension stirred a strange comfort within me. While simultaneously setting my nerves alight, he sank into the couch across from me, extending his long legs with ease, and flashed another smile. "You always were my favorite neighbor," he teased, a mischievous glint dancing in his eyes. A chuckle escaped me, a sense of comfort washing over. As we seamlessly transitioned into a flowing dialogue, we engaged in a conversation about his classes, his aspirations for the future, and the significant transformations the neighborhood had undergone. It was a pleasant experience, flowing with a natural ease that conversations seldom possessed these days. I discovered myself inclining closer, absorbing the heat of his focus, the manner in which his eyes rested just a moment too long on my features, my hands, my lips, and it had been an eternity since I had experienced that level of focus. That kind of hunger, subtle, restrained, yet undeniably present. In a moment of relaxation, he reclined and extended his limbs, his shirt inching upward to unveil a glimpse of sculpted skin. I swiftly averted my gaze, my heart racing in my chest. I reminded myself that he was still in his youth, likely just extending a gesture of friendliness. I found myself lost in a world of imagination. Yet, he inched nearer, our knees nearly brushing, and the atmosphere around us thickened. Electric. It existed beyond the confines of my imagination. Henry regarded me not as the helpful neighbor, nor as a mother, nor as a mere obligation, but as a woman in my own right. A woman he desired. We lingered in that space for what seemed like an eternity, our dialogue veering into deeper, more intimate realms. He inquired about my aspirations, my sorrows, the existence I yearned for beyond the narrow boundaries of our tranquil little town. It had been years since anyone had posed such questions to me. His sincere curiosity unraveled my defenses, awakening parts of me I had long since learned to guard against. In his gaze, there was an absence of judgment, replaced instead by a profound curiosity and a subtle admiration that rendered me utterly breathless. The clock chimed the hour of midnight, yet neither of us made a move to bring the evening to a close. Silence enveloped the house, broken only by the sporadic creak of aged wood adjusting to the passage of time. The muted illumination cast gentle shadows upon Henry's visage, accentuating the defined contour of his jaw and the inviting warmth in his gaze. I found my gaze lingering, and as I averted my eyes, a soft chuckle escaped his lips. "You are beautiful, you know," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. The words crashed over me like a relentless tide, not merely due to the content of his words, but rather the manner in which he articulated them, as if proclaiming the most self-evident truth in existence. Tears threatened to spill from the corners of my eyes, yet I dismissed them with a laugh, shaking my head in disbelief. "You're just encouraged," I muttered. Yet he leaned in closer, narrowing the space that separated us. "I truly mean it," he said, his hand grazing softly against mine. The touch was innocent, yet it coursed a jolt through every fiber of my being. I had lost touch with the sensation of being desired, of being perceived through gazes that cherished each imperfection as though it only enhanced my value in their eyes. For a fleeting instant, I allowed myself to surrender to it. To him, I permitted myself to recall a time when, prior to the weight of obligations and the confines of identity, I had existed as a cherished dream in someone else's heart. As I sat there, facing Henry, a sense of possibility washed over me, as if I could reclaim what once was. As he rose to depart, a palpable hesitation lingered, an unvoiced question hanging delicately between us. He flashed that enchanting smile once again, wished good night, and vanished into the guest room. In the gentle illumination of the lamp, I found myself seated in solitude, my heart racing, a tingling sensation coursing through my skin, and for the first time in years, I experienced the thrill of being truly alive. Sleep, I had assumed, would envelop me effortlessly, yet, as I reclined in the stillness of the house, my thoughts danced restlessly, denying me the solace I sought. With each gentle flutter of my eyelids, Henry's visage emerged, his voice echoing in my mind, whispering sweetly that I was beautiful. Their simplicity belied their rarity, echoing in my mind like an unending melody I couldn't silence. I writhed in restlessness, the burden of solitude growing more oppressive against my heart now that someone had grazed that tender, throbbing core of my being. I wrapped the delicate blanket more snugly around my form, attempting to banish the sensation, yet it proved futile. I found myself wide awake, restless, acutely attuned to the lingering electric tension that hung in the air between us. The quietude was interrupted by a gentle creak echoing from the hallway. I stood still, my breath caught in my throat. Yet another creak echoed through the silence, followed by the gentle sound of footsteps approaching. The door to my bedroom, barely open, creaked further ajar. My heart pounded, a relentless drumbeat against my ribs. I rose gradually, my eyes fluttering open to the enveloping shadows. And there he stood. In that moment, Henry, his silhouette, outlined by the dim glow of the hallway, exuded a presence that was both startling and, in a way, entirely expected. We gazed into one another's eyes, caught in a fleeting instant woven from the myriad unvoiced sentiments that lingered in the air around us. I could not sleep," he murmured, his voice a soft whisper that scarcely disturbed the stillness. I took a deep breath, grappling with the words that eluded me. A part of me cried out in protest, insisting that this was a mistake, that I ought to return him to the guest room. Yet, the larger, more solitary part of my being, The aspect that had remained unacknowledged for far too long. Yearned to embrace him. I gave a subtle nod. My voice barely a whisper. And that was all the encouragement he required. Henry entered the room and gently shut the door, creating a barrier between us and the outside world. He approached the bed with a tentative gait, as if the very act of moving closer might provoke a shift in my resolve. I silently drew back the blanket, granting him the room he needed. He settled next to me, dressed completely, the mattress yielding to his presence. For a fleeting moment, we simply rested there, side by side, with a measured space lingering between us. My body was taut, every nerve ending electrified, yet as I sensed the warmth emanating from him, a portion of my fear melted away, transforming into something deeper, more intoxicating. I shifted my gaze to him, just enough to catch his eye. His gaze was fixed upon me, brimming with a blend of tenderness and intensity. "You should not be here," I whispered, my voice quivering with unease. "I know," he murmured in response, yet he remained where he was. I did not either. An unseen force seemed to weave us together, more powerful than logic, more potent than dread, as he raised his hand to gently sweep a strand of hair from my face. A shiver coursed through me at his touch. His fingertips brushed my cheek, delicate and gentle, as if he were etching my essence into his memory. With deliberate caution, he inched closer. I might have intervened. I ought to have intervened. Yet when his lips grazed mine, tender and uncertain, I succumbed. A gentle breath slipped from my lips as I surrendered to the kiss, my fingers instinctively tracing the contours of his shoulders. Henry's kiss held a certain reverence, as if he grasped the delicate nature of this fleeting moment. His lips gently pried mine apart, intensifying the kiss, and in an instant, the floodgates opened. Every ounce of solitude, every flicker of desire, all that I had kept locked away surged forth in that kiss. His hands glided down my arms, tracing over my waist, drawing me nearer. I grasped his shirt tightly, anchoring myself in the truth of his presence, the heat radiating from his body, the rhythmic pulse of his heart. His touch lingered, deliberate and unhurried, offering me every opportunity to retreat, yet I found myself unwilling to do so. This was essential for me. He was essential to me. Each stroke of his fingers, each tender touch, served as a poignant reminder that I was alive, still deserving of desire. His lips traced a path along my jawline, descending to my neck, each gentle press igniting a flurry of sparks across my skin. I leaned into him, yearning for more, longing to experience every part of him pressed against me. His hands navigated with tenderness, unhurried and gentle, as if he sought to imprint every contour, every gasping note that escaped my lips. He hesitated, his gaze probing into my eyes. "Do you truly believe that?" he murmured, his voice roughened by a careful control. I cradled his face gently in my palms, affirming with a nod. "Indeed," I inhaled. "This is what I desire. I desire you." That was all it required. Henry pressed his lips against mine once more, with a fervor that swept away any lingering doubts. His hands glided beneath the hem of my shirt, his touch filled with reverence as he unveiled my skin to his gaze. He gazed at me as if I were a rare gem, something he had yearned to hold yet never dared to hope could be his. Garments slipped away, one by one, until only skin and warmth remained between us, accompanied by the soft murmur of mutual desire. Henry's hands explored my body with a sense of wonder, as if he were unearthing a treasure he had only ever imagined. Each touch, each kiss, each breath unfolded with a languid precision, pulling me further into him, into the essence of us. He revered me with his hands, his lips, his soft-spoken expressions of devotion. As he finally joined with me, the moment was neither hurried nor frantic. It unfolded with a languid grace, profound and resonating with a poignant tenderness. I inhaled sharply at the sensation, the profound fullness of him, the manner in which he moved with such deliberate reverence. Henry pressed his lips gently against the tears that cascaded down my cheeks. Tears that spoke of release, gratitude, and an emotion too vast to articulate. He entered me with a rhythm that conveyed deep respect and commitment. Each thrust, each touch escalating into a symphony of sensations that left me quaking. We swayed in unison, entwined in a dance as ancient as the stars, our bodies discovering a rhythm that seemed both instinctive and destined. Henry murmured my name with reverence, his hands cradling my face as if I were a fleeting shadow that might vanish without his tender grasp. I grasped him tightly, my fingers pressing into his shoulders, finding solace in his steadfast presence as the pleasure surged toward an overwhelming climax. When release finally arrived, it surged through me like a tidal wave, leaving me breathless and grasping onto him as we both plunged over the edge. We fell into each other, entwined and gasping, as the universe shrank to the rhythm of our united pulse. For an extended moment, we remained entwined, the gravity of our actions lingering in the atmosphere. Yet there was an absence of regret, an absence of shame. A profound and tranquil feeling of correctness envelops the mind. Henry placed gentle kisses on my forehead, my cheeks, my lips, whispering tender words that filled my heart with a beautiful ache. I embraced him tightly, allowing myself to dream, if only for a fleeting evening, that I could transcend the limitations life had sought to impose upon me. That I remained visible, sought after, cherished. The night unfurled its dark tapestry around us, the house enveloped in silence, the outside world fading into oblivion. In Henry's embrace, I discovered a fragment of my being that I had believed was lost to the abyss. A part of me long concealed beneath the weight of solitude and uncertainty. As slumber enveloped me, nestled securely against his chest, I felt an unwavering certainty that regardless of what the morrow held, this night belonged solely to me. Endless hours. Morning arrived with a gentle pace. As sunlight seeped through the curtains in delicate, subdued rays, I shifted slightly, acutely aware of the unexpected heaviness of Henry's arm resting upon me. For a brief instant, I permitted myself to immerse in the warmth, convincing myself that this was uncomplicated, that this was a pleasure I could embrace without repercussions. His calm breaths against my neck anchored me like nothing else had in years. Yet, the harshness of reality, relentless and unyielding, started to infiltrate my awareness once more. I was not a whimsical woman who could simply surrender to a lover's embrace without a second thought. I held the role of a mother, a keeper of faith, and Henry represented so much more than a mere moment of desire. Guilt gnawed at my heart, even as my body yearned for him, for the intimacy we once embraced. Gently, with deliberate caution, I eased myself away from his embrace, sensing the chill invade the space where his heat had lingered. He stirred yet remained in slumber. His features softened in a manner that sent a pang of longing through my heart. I lingered for a moment, etching into my mind the youthful arc of his lips, the delicate way his lashes brushed against his cheek. 1,000 questions echoed within my mind. What had we done? What might unfold from this point onward? Can we feign that it never occurred? Entomb it beneath the hush of dawn's embrace? With a quiet urgency, I collected my clothes, each subtle noise amplifying the thrum of my heartbeat in the hushed atmosphere of the house. With every step I took away from him, it felt as though I was unraveling. Yet I compelled myself to continue onward. I slipped into my robe and quietly made my way out of the room, shutting the door behind me with excruciating care. The hallway now bore a weight, an oppressive atmosphere, as if the very walls had borne witness to my descent from favor. In the kitchen, I clutched the counter, my breath coming in quick bursts, striving to conjure a semblance of myself capable of deciphering this chaos. Engaging in the ritual of coffee felt like the epitome of normalcy, a quintessentially human experience. As I lingered by the window, the aroma of brewing coffee filled the air, while I gazed vacantly at the awakening world outside, momentarily convincing myself that my own life had not just been irrevocably altered. As Henry stood in the doorway, disheveled and hesitant, I felt a tightness in my chest. Our gazes locked, and for a fleeting moment, silence enveloped us both. The weight of our unspoken connection rendered language inadequate, each word seeming too fragile and unwieldy to capture the vastness of what existed in the silence. He moved nearer, his hand extending instinctively, only to halt in midair, caught in a moment of uncertainty about whether he still possessed that right. Regarding last night, he started, his voice tinged with emotion. I dismissed him with a subtle shake of my head. The sound eluded my ears. Not at this moment. If he were to declare it a mistake, it would fracture something fragile within me. If he were to claim it held significance, it would plunge me into deeper fear. I averted my gaze, preoccupied with the task of pouring the coffee, my hands quivering slightly, causing a few drops to escape and fall. Henry closed the gap between us in 2 swift strides, his hand enveloping mine with a gentle touch, calming the tremors that coursed through me. I averted my gaze, fearful of the emotions that might linger within his eyes: pity, regret, or, even more unsettling, a tenderness that felt entirely beyond my reach. "You are not alone," he said softly. That shattered me. The barrier within me, which I had painstakingly maintained for ages, finally gave way. A fractured laugh escaped my lips, while tears cascaded down my cheeks quicker than I could brush them aside. Henry enveloped me in his embrace, his arms securing me as I surrendered to my tears, resting my head against his chest. He refrained from silencing me, offering no assurances that everything would be all right. He enveloped me in his arms, a steadfast and unyielding embrace. As the tempest within me gradually subsided, I drew back a bit, my fingers quivering as they brushed against my face. Henry gently cradled my chin, compelling me to meet his gaze. "I do not regret it," he declared with intensity. "Not a single moment." His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, yet beneath that comfort lay an unsettling chill. I yearned to trust him, to envelop myself in the security he presented. Yet the whisper of uncertainty rang louder. What could possibly lead to a favorable conclusion here? He was in the bloom of youth, with a vast expanse of life stretching out before him. I was merely a fleeting diversion, a passage he would ultimately surpass. Yet, as he bent closer and pressed his lips against mine, with a slowness and tenderness that suggested an eternity stretched before us, I surrendered to the moment. I allowed myself to linger in forgetfulness for just a bit more time. The hours slipped away, enveloped in a blur of furtive looks and tentative caresses. Henry remained by my side, always present, never intrusive, never insistent, just a steady presence whenever I stumbled. As we prepared breakfast side by side, our fingers occasionally grazed, the atmosphere laden with unexpressed sentiments. His laughter at my silly joke resonated throughout the house, infusing it with a buoyancy I had nearly forgotten was possible. And yet, beneath the laughter, a tension simmered, an undercurrent of fear and longing that we both feigned ignorance to. As darkness enveloped the world once more, the burden of decision pressed down more intensely upon me. I understood that this could not persist, regardless of the fervent objections of my heart. The affection, or perhaps the delicate sentiment that had unfurled between us, often fell short of spanning the chasm that lay between the tangible world and our aspirations. As Henry extended his hand toward mine while we sat on the couch, I grasped it firmly, cherishing the sensation even as tears clouded my sight. Perhaps our destinies were never intertwined for the long haul. Perhaps this was merely a moment, ephemeral and exquisite, tinged with the tragedy of its own unattainability, yet it belonged to us. And for tonight, that would have to suffice. By the next morning, the air hung thick with an unvoiced comprehension. Henry shifted next to me, his arm wrapping more firmly around my waist, as though he believed he could stave off what was destined to come. Yet, we were acutely aware that reality had already closed in on us. I pivoted to meet his gaze, etching every nuance into my memory: his inviting eyes, the gentle arc of his lips, and the way he regarded me as if I were a rare treasure. "We cannot remain in this state," I murmured, my voice trembling. Henry's jaw tightened, yet he inclined his head with deliberate slowness. He was youthful, filled with aspirations yet to pursue, while I was a woman who had experienced too much to request that he remain confined within the pages of my narrative. Though it pained me deeply, I understood that releasing my grip was the sole act of compassion I could extend. In those final hours, we found ourselves entwined, words scarce, yet clinging to the ephemeral bond that transcended both reason and the passage of time. As he stood at the threshold, suitcase clutched tightly, he glanced back one last time, a wistful smile gracing his lips. "You made me feel acknowledged," he said. "Your presence enveloped me in warmth and affection." And in an instant, he vanished. I softly shut the door, leaning my forehead against the cool surface of the wood. I understood that life would continue its relentless march, as it always had, yet I would hold onto this hidden sanctuary within me. A recollection of a night when two fractured spirits connected, if only for an instant, and rediscovered the sensation of being complete.